Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I will be showing you my process on how I create a painting. So first things first, I always start with a loose sketch, and in this case I am sketching out the outline of the fabric over the nose and creating the shape of the eyebrow, and then I'll be doing some guidelines to create the eye. I am working off a reference photo, but not too concerned about being exact. I just want to get the general shape. So this canvas is an 8x8, and I did gesso it prior to sketching just to prepare the canvas for the oils. And again, this is a loose sketch. I've drawn a lot of eyes, so if anyone's interested in a more detailed tutorial on how to draw eyes, just let me know. Just very loosely drawing those fingers. Okay, and that triangle will eventually be a highlight. Almost done with the sketching. Just a few more lines to get an idea of where I want the fabric folds to be. Okay, now the sketch is all complete, and now I will begin putting down my base tones for the skin. I focused more on orange tones with purple and yellow undertones. Now I started by mixing a flesh tone with a raw sienna color to get a warmth to the base tone. So I just added a bit more white to that same color. To start to get a gradient, I'll add more of a bluish purple tone to that later. Same with the highlight on the nose. And as for the shadow color on the opposite side, I added more violet to that sienna, as well as a bit of black to emphasize that shadow. And obviously these highlights will be diluted. I just want to get an idea of where they're going to be. And adding some of those yellow undertones below the eye. And more purple to complement that. Now I mix that purple with a tiny bit of blue to get that highlight underneath the eye, or at least starting to. And using that same color to start to add a bit more depth to the forehead. It did take a lot of mixing and playing around to get the right shade for the forehead specifically. And adding just pure raw sienna to the center of the forehead to really get that orange tone. Alright, and here I'm just trying to blend out the gradient more on the forehead. It did take a bit of work to get that. I'm trying to emphasize the purple tone between the eye. And now I'm beginning to lower that highlight I had initially set up because I realized it was too high. Now, as I'm moving along this painting, focusing on getting the skin tone as close as I can, it's definitely about layers and building those colors up to where you want it to be. So that's why I find it's important to get those base tones as close as you can, and just blend and blend. And eventually you'll get it. Now I'm starting to focus more on the eye. I'm using a smaller brush to add a bit more blue to the lower eye line. And just spotting that same blue with a bit more purple to get a look of wrinkles. Okay, now I'm filling in one side of the eye with a very light blue. And the other is still going to be basically a salmon color. Because the last thing you want to do with eyes is to just fill it in with a stark white. I'm building that salmon side with hints of purple. And eventually I'll darken it a little bit on the outer edge with black. Going over that crease with, I think I started with a raw umber, and then I eventually moved on to black after that. Okay, and I'm going over that waterline with a mix of red and the flesh tone. And on the other side, it's purple and black. I'm just blending that together. And I'm sort of bringing down that black to darken the eye a little bit underneath and diluting it with a bit of mineral spirits to help blend better with the color below it. Filling in that lash line and crease line. Blending that black out so it's nice and soft. Okay, now I'm starting to fill in the rest of the eye with black, and now I'm gonna go in, just soften that, just a little bit of white. Now for the color of the eye, I'm just using a mustard yellow. And using a sky blue as the base of the reflection of the eye. And I'll go over that with white. And then I'm just going to fill the rest in with black. So now I'm using a diluted dark brown to get those lower lashes in. And using that raw umber color again to soften the eyelid. And using a diluted black over that. Okay, now I'm going over the waterline with a pure white. That just helps the eye really pop. And again, going with a darker black or diluted black to create those undertones in the eyes. And now I'm stippling in that same tone to get a bit more texture. Once with the diluted black and then with the yellow that's under the eye. And going back to the highlight above the eyebrow, trying to smooth that out again. And finally finding the right tone to bring the highlight and the shadow together. Lightening the highlight on the bridge of the nose. And now I'm just softening the edge of the face where eventually I'll make it more obvious of a shadow. Now I'm starting to fill in the base color for the eyebrow. And now I'm going over that with black and dark brown, kind of going back and forth. And not too worried about which direction the brush strokes are in, but but trying for the most part to keep it uniform. And I'm taking the flesh tone that I had mixed earlier and sort of going on top of the brush strokes I had just put down to make it look a little more natural. And again, going over with a highlight. And then diluting the highlight. Okay, now for the shadow of the nose, I did first that dark brown and then black, and then sort of blended it together. Using that sienna to help blend that even more and bring back some rich tones to the skin. Softening that yellow just a little bit. Okay, now I'm just adding a tiny highlight to the outer edge of the inner eye. Just stippling it in. And now I'm I'm just doing the base tones of the fingers. Again, I'm not too worried about detail on the fingers. I really wanted to keep the details on the eye since that's the main focus of the piece. So really I'm just keeping to 3 tones in the fingers, sienna, dark brown, and black. Now I'm just outlining those fingers in black. Now I'm moving on to the final part of the piece, which is the fabric. Now I started with mixing a light green tone for the base of the fabric, but remixing it I ended up with more of an aqua color, which I liked more because that's my favorite color. Now I'm just getting that base color in. I was trying to sort of keep those lines that I had guesstimated for the folds of the fabric, but wasn't too worried about keeping those in. Now I'm just getting a tiny bit of white for that highlight in the fabric. So to start off with, for the folds of the fabric, I just started with a diluted black to sort of get an idea of where they're going to be. And then I darkened one side of the fabric with black and then decided to add a dark green on top of it. And then brought that out to give more of the illusion of fabric. So again, just using that dark green and a little bit of black. I'm adding some bright yellow to help contrast that color and highlight it just a little bit. I'll go over it with white in just a second. Just filling in the rest of the canvas with black. Now I'm just trying to blend in that green with the dark shadowy black. Okay, going in with that white for a highlight. I'm just darkening those fabric folds by using a smaller brush. I'm just going over those lines. Softening the edges around the fingers. Just doing some final touches. More softening around the edges. And that is pretty much it, minus a signature. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I am very happy with this painting, and thank you for watching.